What is up, guys? Today we've got an exciting one. It's a 2-in-1. It's handling and aesthetic mod. Got down here the Eibach lowering springs. This should make it look really cool. I've had these for a little while, but as I've had in one of the previous videos, it's the little star keys, or I think it's E-Torx, the inverted Torx head, to get the top bolts out the struts. So I'm going to start on the front because that's the hardest one, and then move to the back because that's a little bit easier. I've had this link soaking in penetrating oil or WD-40 just for a few hours, make it easy to get off. I made this contraption out of a through socket and a long socket. So this one's going to stop it spinning, and it's going to go through the through socket. This was super easy to do, it just took some time and then the nut came off. However, I did come across one problem. I'm thinking a slight change of plan, because this nut is stuck on there. I'm going to have to compress it with the jack. I'm going to put a jack stand to support the weight. I'm going to start the back first, do that, and then move back to the front. There's a spring. From what I believe, it's just these two bolts. This comes down, replace the spring, back up, all done. So doing the back really wasn't hard, it was just them two bolts. There is the plastic protector, and to remove it, it is easier to get some pliers to compress the top pieces. You can just see one there, and it comes off a lot easier. I did end up snapping one off because I didn't compress it enough and pulling a bit hard. I did the outside bolt first, and there's just the inside one to the strut, and then it comes down nice and easy. So the back one really wasn't hard at all, it's just down there, and this is what it looks like. I just kept my hand there just so it didn't drop too low, because there's a level sensor just at the back, and it came out super easy. The hardest thing to take off was that plastic piece, but I used some grips in the end. Let's open the box. The new Eibach ones, I see the difference. Not a huge difference, but this one's slightly shorter. Let's get this one in. As you can imagine, it's really easy just putting it all back together. It's the opposite way. So for the springs, I made sure that the logos were upright, because I thought they're not going to stick the logos on so they're upside down, and it seemed to be that way. Make sure you can line it up in that rubber piece at the bottom so it's seated properly, and then I just used a trolley jack just to push the bottom arm up and line it up with the strut and then the knuckle on the outside. When I took the bolts out, I gently screwed on the nuts and placed them on the floor the way that they came out of the car, just so I could remember which way they went back in. Putting the plastic piece back on wasn't too difficult either. It just made sure everything lined up and then gave it a good push. But you could use a plastic hammer or something just to seat it. Back one is back together. Not too hard, a little bit sweaty because it's super warm down here. But there you go. New spring in, old spring out. Let's get onto the front one. Using the trolley jack, I compressed the struts, and that allowed me to take the nut off, and then eventually the sway bar end link. Next, it's loosening the bolt that holds the strut in place on the knuckle. I've read not to use an impact on this because you can strip the bolts. So I'm just holding one in place with one wrench, and then I'm using the other one to unscrew the bolts. Took a little bit of time, but we got there. So this tool is an absolute must if you're doing suspension. I'll link it down below, and it's like an oval shape, and you put it in the back to open up the knuckle. So there's a groove back here. I'm going to put this tool in. Just going to open it up, so that should allow us to take this out, and then we've got 3 bolts in the top. So using this tool, it does take a little bit of fiddling to get it sort of in place, but you get the thin end, put that in, and then rotate with a wrench, and that'll spread the knuckle open at the bottom. And you can see here I'm just using a hammer with plastic on the end, and it's sort of pushing down and helping me work the knuckle off the suspension strut. So I found a bit of a problem. I've got the pry tool in the back, I've hammered this down, it came out sweet, but we've still got about this much, I think, in here. This is hitting the sway bar. Now, everyone that I've watched seems to not remove the axles, drive shafts or anything like that, like I did on the Audi for the coilovers. So I've thought about compressing the spring. I don't think that's going to work because I can't get the compressors in there. But the only way I can think of getting this out is somehow compressing this spring so this gets shorter, because at the minute that's hitting the sway bar. So I'm going to go and have a think, have a little research and see if I can find the solution. It was a super simple fix. So what I did, I had the car, all the weight on this side just stands and the jack over here. So all the pressure was on that front tyre and flexing the sway bar. And now we are no longer, you can see where the dust marks are, no longer touching the sway bar. So let's see if we can get this out now. After I took the weight off the front wheel, it made it really easy. Just teased it off with the hammer a little bit, as you can see here, and then we're all good. Just at the last minute, I realised I had to remove that wire. Do not try and remove that strut if that's still attached. If you're only changing the springs and you're using the stock suspension, then you're going to need a suspension compressor. Now, this one I got off Amazon, I'll link it down below, and it came with 3 different size pieces. So if you've got a different diameter spring, then you use the bigger one, or a smaller one, you can use the smaller one. Now, I do get a small percentage from Amazon Associates if you do use my link and buy something through them. It won't cost you any more, but it does help me out a little bit. There's the 2 springs, the new one's on the left, the Eibach one, and on the right, the OEM. It's worth noting, you have to use the thin-walled 21mm socket to get the bolt off the top of the shock. So I've got this Milwaukee set for the wheels, and this sleeve comes off. That was a godsend. Otherwise I wouldn't have been able to get that off, I don't think. All my sockets were too thick. All right, let's reassemble the shock and get it back in the car. There's a tab on the bottom of the suspension, and you just want to push it up against it, and that'll seat it properly. Make sure that the Eibach logo is pointing upwards, and it should be the right way around. It's pretty obvious if it's upside down because it'll be all crooked. As I'm using an impact to tighten it up, I'm holding the shaft so it doesn't spin too much, and then pulling down the dust cover. I used cable ties to secure it because it didn't seem to sit properly after I took it off. And where I live, it's pretty dusty, so I didn't want any dust getting inside the shock. Super simple, putting it back in. I've just lined it up on the knuckle, and I have still got that tool, the spreader, in the back of the knuckle to keep it open, to make it easier to put the suspension strut back in. Just double checking the top as I'm shifting it, and it will start sliding back in. Now it's all lined up, I'm winding in the bolts by hand at the top 3 that we took out. Once they're finger tight, I'm just going back down to the bottom, sort of shifting it with my hands and a hammer just to get it in place, and then a trolley jack will push it up and get it in its final place, ready to tighten. Before you tighten up that bolt that secures it in place, remember to remove the spreader tool, otherwise you're going to start damaging the knuckle. And then after that, I'm just compressing the suspension one more time to fit in the sway bar end link, wind that bolt on. Then using the through socket and the other ratchet, I'm tightening that all back up. Forgot to put this bolt back in. Apparently you've got to be careful with these, don't use an impact. This went in quite easily, I just did it by hand because I wanted to hold it still. Spring's looking good up there. Last bolt, and then we'll get the wheel back on. I need to torque these bolts down. I need to find out what the torque specs are of them, and I need to torque the wheels down. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the left side on. Not going to film that because it's exactly the same as what I've just done. I'm going to not look at what it looks like. And then the next shot is going to be a genuine reaction to how it looks once the left side's done. I don't know how I haven't looked at this car. Both sides are done now. I finished the right side last night, as you know. It was quite late and I didn't want to annoy the neighbours with all the noise, so I did the left side this morning. Haven't looked at either side. The only thing left to do is torque the struts, the wheels, and then reset the dampeners. So that's full lock left, full lock right with the car on, switch the car off, and then restart it. So we're going to do that now. Let's have a quick look. That's definitely a bit lower at the back. This one tends to rub a little bit if we've got someone sat at the back, so that's interesting. And then the front, oh wow. Yeah, that is a lot better. Let's see if it drops any more when we do the dampener reset, but that is looking sick. All right, we're torqued up. That's what we're looking like, much better. I'm just going to do the reset now. So I believe, get in the car, turn it on. Do a full lock to the left, full lock to the right, and then car off. Maybe it dropped it a little bit more. I'm going to pull the car out now. Let's see what it looks like.